A massive mansion whose blackened corridors beckon you to search its every nook and cranny, where creaking doors and confounding puzzles hide secrets around every corner, and an unspeakable plot is instigated by a being of pure evil who lurks below. What game am I describing?
Resident Evil?
No.
Silent Hill?
Also no.
Alone in the Dark?
No! I'm talking about Luigi's Mansion. Ah yes, Luigi's Mansion, the forever black sheep of the Mario franchise, which spawned 2 sequels, an infinite number of crossover appearances, and an innumerable number of nightmares within the average child Nintendo fan's unconscious mind. Released at an incredibly inopportune time during Nintendo's history, this game is often cited as being one of the major reasons why the GameCube failed. The console launched without a massive tentpole Mario or Zelda title, and as we all know, consumers do not like things that they aren't expecting. Instead, Nintendo fans received this strange little game about sucking up ghosts with a vacuum cleaner. However, despite its strange first few years of existence, this game has, over time, received a fan base of its own, due in part to the many strange elements of its design, many of which we shall be talking about today. This game it's really weird. Tonally, it's a mix of typical Mario series-style humor juxtaposed against legitimate survival horror elements and a good dose of parody of popular horror games and films of the time. But what makes this game such an oddity in Nintendo's lineup? This is Luigi's Mansion, Nintendo's own survival horror. Welcome home. Before we even begin the game, we can see our first instance of Nintendo shaking things up for this entry. For most Mario titles, the Nintendo logo is accompanied by upbeat music, or a cheerful call-out of the company's name. Nintendo! Woohoo! But in Luigi's Mansion?
Nintendo.
Yeah. That horrifying nightmare voice. Our favorite green plumber has won a mansion in a contest he didn't even enter, and his brother Mario has gone missing after saying he would meet Luigi at the mansion. As Luigi gazes up at his horrifying prize, we can see the twisted caricature of European design methodology that we will be exploring throughout the journey. If we compare this mansion to something like the Arclight Mansion from Resident Evil, it's almost comical in how absurd it is. It lies atop a hill covered with graves, framed by an eternal lightning storm raging in the background. The design of the entrance combined with the massive windows towards the roof, along with the 2 lit-up windows in the front, create a sort of menacing face. While this is on one hand so over the top as to be humorous, it's also surprisingly imposing. Upon entering the mansion, we begin to notice one of the elements that makes Luigi's Mansion so special, its atmosphere. Notice something?
Oh yeah.
It's quiet. In other Mario games, a haunted level such as this would be accompanied by a spooky music track, such as here in Super Mario World. Not in this game, however. A surprising amount of time is spent in complete silence, with only the ambient noise of the storm outside to accompany you, along with the occasional sounds of ghosts chanting in the background. This game's sound design is so good it even won a BAFTA for it. Furthermore, this first room allows us to appreciate the lighting. This is a game of harsh, dark tones where it can sometimes feel impossible to see what's going on, only amplifying the frightening atmosphere. You're armed with only your flashlight at this portion of the game, which provides an important function of not just lighting up dark rooms, but also casting shadows. Luigi's Mansion was originally built as a tech demo for the GameCube, and it's in the lighting that it really shows its origins. You can cast shadows off of most objects in the game, and while it has little functional purpose, it serves to heighten the immersion and atmosphere. After all, sometimes we're afraid of what might be lurking in the shadows. Continuing up the stairs, we come across one of my favorite details in this game: door animations! They are short animations that play whenever you try to open the door. They are often associated with the original Resident Evil on the PlayStation 1, which utilized many of these in order to disguise its loading screens. In Luigi's Mansion, these take the form of Luigi's hand trembling as he struggles to open the door, terrified of whatever lies waiting for him. These are one of the most striking examples of how the game created the character of Luigi as we know him today. What's funny about the door animations in this game is that they are entirely pointless. You can skip them by pressing the A button and they're not really hiding any meaningful loading screens. So to me, that says that considering Nintendo went to the effort of making door animations for every single different door in the game, it has to be a parody of survival horror tropes of the time. It just has to be. That's just my opinion. We find the door at the top of the stairs locked, so after returning downstairs and watching what looks to be sentient jello flying around for a moment, we grab the first key and use it to open the locked door. In this room, we meet our first human other than Luigi, if we can really consider the Mario Brothers to be human anymore anyway. Professor Egad is a ghost researcher, and he explains to us that this mansion is, in fact, haunted. If you hadn't figured that part out anyway. After nearly being assaulted, we retreat into Egad's underground laboratory, including really funny vocal sound effects, and are met with an absolutely funky musical piece that I still cannot get enough of to this day. It's here that we are armed with the Poltergeist 3000, a vacuum that can suck up ghosts. After a brief tutorial, we return to the mansion and face another instance of Luigi's Mansion being a bit too creepy than it has any right to be for a Mario series game. Getting threatened by talking paintings that shake violently and laugh at you while intense music plays. Isn't that great, kids? That's just amazing content for the children playing this Nintendo game. Absolutely lovely. After a few more combat encounters, we discover the outdoor theme of Luigi's Mansion, which I really just want to spotlight for a moment here. Is this the kind of melancholy type of music that you expect from a family-friendly Nintendo game that isn't named Majora's Mask? This is the perfect time to talk about Luigi's Mansion's soundtrack. Oh man, Luigi's Mansion's soundtrack. Music is used sparsely throughout the game and is always used to heighten the tension and atmosphere. Dark hallways feature a massive booming orchestral piece that feels like it's coming to get you. Outdoor segments have a melancholic sound that reminds you of the sadness and the mystery of the situation you found yourself in. Boss fights are chaotic and get you in the zone for the fight that awaits you. On top of this sundae of sound is the cherry that is Luigi's humming. Luigi will hum along to the music as you traverse the mansion's halls, and as your health goes down, his humming becomes more and more erratic. This even translates to interacting with objects and calling out for Mario. This simple, seemingly pointless addition helps us to fall in love with the Green Plumber's character and empathize with his plight. Poor guy just wants his brother back. A few rooms later, we come across our very first portrait ghost. These are ghosts who are closer to sentient beings than we have come across before, and then the implications here are honestly a little disturbing the more you think about it. Spoiler alert for the ending of the game. While the normal ghosts you encounter are confirmed to merely be creations of the ghost artist Vincent van Gogh, the portrait ghosts aren't. They aren't even mentioned. In fact, Vincent van Gogh's existence as a ghost artist raises so many questions. Where did he come from? Is he an illusion of King Boo? Do ghosts just exist in the Mario universe? Is there an afterlife in the Mario universe? Oh yeah, I forgot about that. Yes, there is an afterlife in the Mario universe. Why am I asking all of these questions? Defeating portrait ghosts is a task that makes up many of the puzzles hidden within Luigi's Mansion. You cannot simply face them in brute force like the normal ghosts. Instead, every portrait ghost has a special mechanic associated with it. For instance, Neville here. Neville is completely invincible while reading his book, so in order to defeat him, you must wait for him to yawn and reveal his spectral heart before he can be stunned and sucked up by your poltergust. It's in the Portrait Ghost that Luigi's Mansion really shows its hand. These puzzles can be rather deceptive and rely a lot on observing characteristics of the ghosts. However, if you're replaying the game and know what you're doing, it amplifies the satisfaction you receive from beating the challenge. On the topic of replaying the game, you may know that classic survival horror games often rely on their replayability to make up for their short length. Games like the classic Resident Evil series even ranked your completion time and gave you rewards for beating the game faster. In order to beat the game faster, you had to not only master its combat mechanics, but also understand the solutions to its puzzles, as well as the design of the map. This makes these classics infinitely replayable as you shoot for shorter times and higher ranks. Luigi's Mansion takes inspiration from this by also ranking you, but in a different manner. Instead of completion time, Luigi's Mansion ranks you based on money gathered. You gather more money by learning all of the collectible spots throughout the mansion, by understanding the combat mechanics and sucking out portrait ghosts with only a single vacuum cycle, and by seeking out secret ghosts such as speedy spirits and gold mice that grant you tons of money. Additionally, Luigi's Mansion incentivizes you to replay it by offering different ranks to the portrait ghosts themselves. By sucking them up in fewer vacuum cycles, or by avoiding getting hit in boss fights, you can receive anywhere from a bronze portrait frame to a shining gold one. The 3DS remake, which we don't talk about in this house, one-ups this by introducing platinum frames, which are even more difficult to obtain. It's this element of gameplay that stands out to me as yet another reason why Luigi's Mansion is seemingly Nintendo's version of the classic survival horror game. This game is incredibly short, very replayable, and ranks you based on skill. Starting to sound a little bit like Resident Evil to me. We're now approaching the end of Area 1. We obtain the key to the nursery from the bedroom and enter a bright pink door. Inside we find a ghost child?
Yeah. Dead kids. In a Nintendo game.
I know the game clarifies that he was born as a ghost. That's still kind of fucked up. When I was a kid, I didn't know that part. This isn't even the only one. There's multiple dead kids, one of which is hinted to have died in her sleep. Jeez, Nintendo. Maybe this is why all the ghosts in the sequels are just weird blobs. Boss fights in Luigi's Mansion have a tendency to be incredibly strange conceptually. Not only are you transported to a very trippy dimension completely separate from the rest of the mansion, the final boss fight might as well take place in hell, but you're also facing off against much larger and threatening foes. I find it so interesting that Nintendo went in such a direction for this game, and only for this game. There are very few first-party Nintendo games that even come close to this kind of tone, and Luigi's Mansion stands alone as the only Mario game that does this consistently. After helping Luigi beat up children for a few minutes, we find ourselves at the end of Area 1, and therefore at the end of our discussion for today. The most incredible thing about Luigi's Mansion is just that it exists. For a few short years in the early 90s to early 2000s, a team of developers at Nintendo decided to make an actual survival horror game starring a Mario character of all things, and they actually managed to pull it off. Somehow, this game exists, and it works incredibly well. It's an enigma, especially considering how its sequels are a completely watered down and comedic version of what this game set out to do. Don't worry. We'll get to those games eventually. It is, as I said at the beginning of this video, a very strange game. But more than just being strange, it also comes off to me as Nintendo's way of parodying, or perhaps embracing the survival horror genre, which was becoming prominent at this time. From the door animations, to the legitimate horror elements, to the game's very replayable and score-based design, to the incredibly strong and honestly still somewhat creepy to this day atmosphere, I've always described Luigi's Mansion as Nintendo's own survival horror. I feel that's for a good reason.
Hello there, everyone. If you made it this far into the video, it seems pretty obvious that you like this kind of content, so why don't you go ahead and like and subscribe? It really helps out. I'm just starting this sort of new video essayist journey, so if you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe, and I hope to have more out for you soon. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.